Calling and buloluku with whatever we do. Jioni safu no la with whatever we do. Hale yide munyu skula nyepamne ne kudlukula nyepangi ragala na nyepamne ne kudlukula ibuloke nungoto ni beti sola ibuloke dato ni betoto
Bigi Congo
Lamin
na
Lamin te jibe norin te nyame Lamin
kabana wulo kono
nyita mo Lamin
pabilenki
muna ngata afamole
haina
ngata ngoto le Fabrama
Mingi baba nyola
ngoto le Fabrama
namu jumara kan kuma diten
Fabrama
jumara mu
ndele bare muso
lunda mana
kata
jamani mbere
alindo ko
jamani
bari ngoto man kontande
bari jamani fa kontan
ngoto minaka ngalamin de fon filitala lamin jibe nori nyaala
lamin ila siran sama ne benki yala so tol sayni no ko mo lakko momo
ngoto
nam
itedinte yalo ne lamin hakkilo diata bake karambugot anu santen ministry ko di ngole si suwo ko amake ko do holi de
si bitun
bagona de
ala ni ko kede namo balo
ala ni na ko na carte bulo be dam ala ni je
ngoto
nam
ngoto mon kontan fere
jamani mu nekata
ifika lamin ki wulo ko no nyintay mon ko do fete malo lamin nyanta sila la be la moy kala karango
jamani karamol be sorande ne ko fasita wulo ko nako
karambugol ma so ni ko karambugol soronda amake comme holiday lem ngoto dini ngo nyanta sila la ala karango la moy yamen kamen fue man kontan andamande
alla nyin kombo courant adanda la kombo ndo la jan karamol le soranda do kamen courant ma rado la kombo e don dol fana na karamol soronje karamol soron lamina dara lo nyino la amon dara fe na so kon ala mu nekela
am lamin ite foyde malon ko lesinol be ke kar radio to
nga fine
e ko yana di mod lamin ya mu na fonye
bi kabin mina kan tambita nteri mañing Fatou
ha
tambite la sugal ala dinngol bebe siri be la moy ka
Fatou danso am fana tambita jele ni subala la ngaje dinngol be jet talanta nen kili warol e be serin jele
sa lamin fadante ku kili wo ke no la ba lamin bita ka wulo ko no nyin taymo alamin
amon dara fenela
ite dine ko ni man si yakaru lesinol la moy radio to e balon na
mu ne ka ke afonde ma ñaara ni alon
telentel jikot
afonde ma mu ne be ke
ite balon tel be jikritel ni man karambe ku kele yaaje nata karana mbasa malaya ay tarije
par ñarande kombo courant ho findira kombo ide na raje den sonka bay ko lamin ma ñata la wulo ko karamol be sonda afonde membe
ko to wole nati bawo ngalle ni lamin kuntala kombo courant o ka fa me kombo courant asototal wala kinay ko e sisu ko no bari ni ko e sisu ko no be karangol di ke la radio ni telel to hani tele masoto to nyaay man tele soto la bungo bar radio be bulan batiri sanga ay si ay alamo
sa do kala
nyaadi ko ta o bulaji
ado kala nyaadi
kamun ke nyaadi
radio abe wala mo la be mona falaje
ibe la karandirol kala jele
ti talle be radio ko men ka karande
ile subject ro baby jele baby jele
wala nanga coco moy fa dan so wala ngombe tambi kana ngadi ningol de be ikadum bungo de ko kala mo
asototal de
la min mala be kara wala de
bari laftalal ideal on ko inde every year second wala fourth
muna ni ko di ko nde ko folle sinila ba ndele sinilo ne ba
mbasa mba foke en koto wole fango ye ngulindi yalo famo keta bat yin fana bulata ko ko me yen nati jambi lamin nyanta karana ndel beji ko be nyineka ya bulay kara wulo kono ta kilar ya bambalo yo be bulaje koto dindi ngoy si ayala le sino la moy radio
wora ka munda kara mo man soro lamin nyanta kara si so na regular
silale ayala le sino
dal ko korno ko smolon
kilar ya
mo be ngala ko momo sa mi do ni kono kera
mengi bruzo
no ko do la da ba rosa no radio ba no bari woro radio ni abe jele ba do ngamra do man be buljan dala nyara nyar woro ko fendi mo la lamin tayra ba rosa
bara te ku folo ajibe nori nya labi tamete ku
muna na
teku
bari ko do famo ke
image nani nyambol si zol le keje kisigi man si zol no le kabun ka nyoma bari nyambu kino ni manya na kafindi ni nambe ko zol laga
ngale limbeta de be nyambo do dilanna
nyara ni ko ridin fennat nyara nata
bari famo ke da
nata bun kono tabi bun kono nyara ngando ko fele ko ke baru nganda ni pelo la dija
iyo awa la
bun kono bismillah di sudiara
pendulala ye fongo tanka sina dolu tanka koro ta koro
Okay, good days, viewers and listeners. I'm Samuel Emendi. I'm back again with another lesson on the mammalian skin. But before we go into the mammalian skin, remember the last time that I gave an assignment, and the assignment reads, list 3 excretory organs in mammals and 1 excretory product by each organ. This was, and I think I gave a 3 questions, and the other question was, describe the process of urine formation in man. And another thing I said was, name a label diagram of what? The nephron. This was the assignment that I gave to you the last time. I hope you did your assignment. Okay? So now, let's look at this assignment together. We said we look at what? The organs of excretion and the excretory product. The first question, the organs of excretion, 1 is the liver. And what does the liver excrete? We said the bile pigment. I hope you are getting it correct. The bile pigment, the liver excretes the bile pigment, the salt, excess cholesterol. Okay, excess cholesterol excrete urea. That's what the kidney excrete. And then we move to, that's what the liver excrete. And then we move to the kidney. Let me repeat what the components that the liver excrete. We said the bile pigment, the salt, excess cholesterol, and urea again. I hope you all got this part correct. And then we move to the kidney. What does the kidney excrete? The kidney excrete water, urea, and salt. These are other components that the kidney excrete: water, urea, and salts. So we talk about the lungs. What does the lungs excrete? Because in our introduction, in my class, I told that we are not going to be discussing the lungs in detail. When you come to respiration, we will talk about it. The lungs. But I did mention to you that there are some products. The lungs as an organ of excretion, there are some products that it excretes. We talk about carbon dioxide, water, vapor. Carbon dioxide and water vapor. I believe you are getting these things right. So now the next thing that we move on to was urine formation. Okay? Urine formation. How urine is formed. We said urine formation. Blood is brought from the kidney by the renal artery. That's the first thing that the blood coming from the kidney is coming from what? The renal artery. After the blood coming from the kidney from the renal artery, it has to pass through what you call the glomerulus. This blood moves into the arterioles and finally into the capillaries of the glomerulus. And I said in the glomerulus, there are a lot of cells. And these cells, they serve as a sieve. And these cells, we call them the podocyte cells. They help to filter some of these filtrates that's coming from the renal, when the blood comes from the renal artery to the glomerulus, they filter. So, and what are some of the substances that are filtered in the glomerulus or that are allowed to pass? I told that in the glomerulus, just like a sieve. It's just like a sieve that when the blood is coming with pressure, it passes through down. Okay? And you said water. These are some of the substances that passes: water, urea, and other nitrogenous compounds. That is what you call the mineral salts. And then also the mineral salt, we have sugar, plasma, and we talk about the filtered under pressure is the capsula. All this process is called the ultrafiltration. All this process is the ultrafiltration. And you also have what you call the glomerular filtrates. That is where substances move. Okay? And then also, after that it says, the filtrate reaches the loop of Henle. So now the glomerulus filtrates, okay? After the filtrate reaches the loop of Henle, okay, absorption of some of this water is now being taken into the filtrates. And then after, it says, as the filtrates moves upwards towards the distal convoluted tubule, the absorption of what? Salt and water is regulated. Some of this salt and water is regulated, and this is done by what? The pH of the blood. And the pH of the blood is being adjusted. And then finally, the collecting duct collects the urine, and the urine is adjusted depending on the osmotic concentration of the blood. So basically, these are some of the steps that take place or that happens in urine formation. I guess we are able to work on these things. These are some of the steps that takes place in urine formation. And then the third question, I believe, is the structure of the nephron. So this is the structure of the nephron, what we were able to discuss earlier on, and we said the down part is the loop of the Henle. This is the afferent artery, that's what's coming from the body. The afferent artery, this part is the loop of Henle, and then we have the afferent artery where the blood is coming inside the glomerulofiltrates. And then we call here the proximal convoluted tubule, and then we have the distal convoluted tubule, and then we have the collecting ducts where final readjustment takes place. I hope we got this information very, very clearly. We are moving to the mammalian skin. And in the mammalian skin, today we are going to be studying about the function of the skin. And then we also look at the disease of the skin and how we are going to care for our skin and prevent skin disease. The skin is very, very important in our bodies, and it's one of the largest organ of the body. Okay, we say the skin is the largest organ of the body. It is the toughest apart from the bone. And the skin is made up of 2 layers. And these layers are the dermis and the epidermis. The epidermis is the outer part of the skin, whereas the dermis is the inner part of the skin. But when we come to the structure of the skin, we will see these different layers. So here, what can we see? Okay, we are seeing a skin, the structure of the skin. And then if we look at this side here, we are seeing the epidermis. And this epidermis, it shows the layers, okay? The layers, the top part of the skin. And the other part here is the dermis. These are the 2 parts of the skin. And then when you look at the different layers, the conifer layers, the malphidian layers, and these layers, they help to protect the skin. Like for instance, here in the epidermis is the outer part of the skin, and in the outer part of the skin we have the hair shaft. That's where we are able to feel. Okay, and then we have the root hairs. That one it comes deep down the dermis. The root hairs come deep down the dermis, and then we have the veins. The veins that we are able to carry blood, and also for you to respond to impulse in the body, and also the sweat glands. When you do a lot of exercise, the sweat glands is helping there to excrete some of the sweats in here. And then there are these different parts we are going to be looking at. The epidermis consists of 3 layers, namely the conified layer, which is the outermost part of the skin, and is formed of dead cells. If we look at our bodies on top here, these cells are dead, okay, and these cells, we call them the conified layers. And you have also what you call the granular layer, is the living part of the cell. Sometimes it's very difficult to differentiate the conified layer and the granular layer. And then the malphidian layer, which is having the color, the pigmentation of the skin. Sometimes some people can be fair, some other people are dark in complexion. So it depends on the pigment or the melanin that's found in your skin. That's what we call the pigment. And this one, it also protects the skin from danger and bacterial infection. So sometimes, some people, when you remove, or like what you do, you bleach your skin and remove that layer, the malphigian layer, or you remove the melanin. So your skin is being exposed to bacterial infection and what damage. Also, we move on to the dermis. We talk about the blood capillaries. And we say this blood capillaries is rich of what? Nutrients and oxygen. So this oxygen goes there to the body to supply, or to the skin to supply them with nutrients. And oxygen to give oxygen for body function to do, for the body to function well. And also we have what you call nerve ending and receptors. They make the skin very, very sensitive. Like for instance, when somebody touches you, you are able to realize or able to feel that you have been touched by somebody. The nerve ending and receptors, they are very, very sensitive to what? To external environment. Okay? And also talk about the sweat glands. These sweat glands, what do? They excrete urea, they excrete water, and what? Lactic acid. So these are some of the substances that is being excreted from the sweat gland. And the sebaceous glands secrete oil, which make the skin watery and resistant. Sometimes, if you look at, sometimes some of the people will advise you that it's not good for you to apply oil at night when you are going to sleep, because during that time the skin will perform some excretory product, and some of this oil, if it goes inside your air pores, it might block and it may prevent some of these materials to come out, because you are not doing a lot of activities, you are relaxing. So that means that the sebaceous gland, they secrete oil. This oil component will make the hair and the skin water resistant. Also, we also have what you call the erector muscles. They regulate the posture of the hair. The hair, and also regulate the body temperature. The posture muscle, they regulate the posture of the hair and the body. So now the adipose tissues, these are the ones that store energy, and it's been used later as an insulin or insulating layer. It makes your body to lubricate the skin. So now we are moving on to the functions of the skin. We just talked about the different functions of the part of the skin. So, but now we are going to look at the general function of the skin. Why it is that the skin is very, very important for us to study. So now, one of the things that we said, the skin is very, very important for us to study because it's a receptor of what? External stimulus. Anything that comes around us is being detected by the skin first before it enters to the body. Like for instance, if the place is cold, you have to put on a sweater to protect yourself. Otherwise, you are exposing your body, and later on you even develop some other inhaled or like diseases. And another thing also, it also helps with pain. When somebody touches you and you feel the pain, you respond. You don't still stand in that position. You have to move around. And also, we said respond to external stimulus. Another thing also, we said the skin protects our body from danger effect of what? UV rays. We know that the sun produces rays, and these rays, they are ultraviolet rays. And the danger is for some people who bleach. When they bleach, they remove the melanin component of the malphigian layer. And when this malphigian layer is the melanin component is removed, the rays comes directly to our bodies, and it can cause us to develop some sickness like skin cancer. So that is why bleaching is not good. We encourage people to stop bleaching, because if you don't, you are just exposing your skin to a lot of damages, and later on you will be affected. So also we talk about this, the skin protects the body also from what? Mechanical injury. Like for instance, if somebody wants to stab you or to burn you, the first place of contact is the skin. So now the skin serves as a protective substance. And also the skin protects our bodies from an invasion of what? Pathogens and bacteria and viruses. some infusions of what pathogens or bacteria and viruses. Some of these substances, some of these pathogens or bacteria, when they come to our skin, when they come in contact with our skin, they cannot penetrate because our skins are resistant. But when there is an opening, when you have a cut, these bacteria and these viruses can easily enter. And also, the skin protects our body from excess loss of water. The water that is in the body is being prevented for it to be lost by the skin. And also, another important of the skin also provides us with vitamin D. When we are exposed to the sunlight, we have vitamin D, and also in regulation of our body temperature. And the last one, it has an excretory organ. We said the skin is the largest organ in the body, except it is the largest organ of the body, and it's also the toughest, except bone. The skin has an excretory organ, excrete fluids such as a sweat, which are contained, like we talked about some of the excretory products before, and like for instance, we talk about the skin excretes what? Sweat. And in the sweat, it contains a lot of substances. We talk about water, we talk about salt, we talk about sodium chloride, and also talk about a small amount of urea. During the strenuous exercise, like for instance, those who play football, those who go to the gym, those who are walking on the road, as they are moving, okay, because they are doing a lot of exercise, their body begin to excrete sweat, and some of these components that are found in sweat are removed from the body, because if they still stays there, they may cause the body, they may be poisonous. We say after excretion, the sweat passes through the sweat duct to the surface of the skin. If the internal environment is warm and dry, the water evaporates. So this is basically what the skin does as an excretory organ. Okay? We are moving to the disease of the skin. I said in the first slide, we are going to look at the skin as an excretory organ. We also look at the function of the skin, and we also look at the disease of the skin, and also we are also going to talk about how we care for our skin, because these things, they are very, very important, because it's very, very important that we care for our skin. One of the diseases of the skin is the tinea. It's a fungus disease that affects the damp and moist parts of our body. They affect us, or they infect, the infected parts becomes reddish and it itches. This is a type of disease that affects, sometimes if you see people with skin disease, they'll go to the hospital. You see their skin is a bit rash, and it's a tinea. Most of these things is affected by the fungus, and these things when it affects our body, you have to go to the hospital. They prescribe the best medication that you need to take in order to treat it. Because of the activity of man, like agricultural work on the ground, playing with the soil, you easily develop some of these diseases, like fungus diseases. You can easily pick up these things, and it affects your body. Another thing is also scabies. I think scabies is caused by a mite, and the female one lives and lays eggs under the skin. Like under the skin, sometimes some of these things you may not even realize that these things are living under your body, or they are in your skin. You just be doing your normal activity, and sad to say, like for some of the people who may not even bath properly, you don't normally use your soap, you don't normally apply soap in bathing to make yourself look clean and decent. And some of these mites, they might go under your skin and lay eggs. And then afterwards, they begin to produce some severe itching and blistering. And you start scratching your body. And some of these things, when they form some blisters, and when you scratch, they break, and the water drops in other part of the skin, and they also develop again. So these things, we have to take care of our skin, and it will help us. When you take care of skin, you look at a healthy life. And also, another thing is also athletic foot. Athletic foot is also another fungus infection. And these ones, they grow between toes. Especially like if you are putting on dirty socks, most of the time you develop this athletic foot. and dirty socks and dirty shoes which are not always clean. So most of the time you develop athletic foot, and sometimes they can be painful to you. And one of the things when you realize that you develop this athletic foot, one of the things that you can do, you can even use powder. It's easy to treat. You can use powder or you can use ash, and then you take care of it. But what we are saying here is these are skin disease, and we need to take care of them. If we don't take care, our body is being exposed and we are affected. Another one is called eczema. Eczema is a disease as a result of what? We are allergic. That's why we have this eczema. So one thing that you need to do when you have these things, you have to look at the things that you are allergic to, so that you will not have this type of disease. And then when you are allergic to these things and you still go and interacting with them, you still have what you call eczema. We said it forms pimples and later develop towards scales. It forms pimples and later it develops what you call scabs. So these things, we have to be very careful when you are dealing with these skin diseases. The other one, which is commonly known, the ringworm. We say the ringworm is caused by some of these the tenure groups, the ringworm. So we said this, the infected parts develop a ring red spot around a clear central and severe itching. You itch a lot. That means you scratch your body too much, and sometimes it produces some water around the ringworm. So how do we care for our skin? Care of the skin and prevention of some of the skin disease. How do you care for them? So one of the things that we need to do, our skin color is determined by what you call the melanin pigment. And in melanin pigment, some people apply bleaching materials, like some of these cosmetic materials, on their bodies in order to look fair. Okay? So when they are applying, they remove the melanin. And when the melanin is being removed, our bodies has been exposed. So now when our body is being exposed, the ultraviolet rays, when they come from this one, they can easily go through our skin and damage our skin. So that's why we need to be extra careful the type of cream that you apply on our skin. It's very, very important, because when you destroy the melanin, it will be very difficult to replace it. You cannot replace it. So your body is being exposed. Any infection that comes around, it can pass through our skin. Okay, so you can be easily immunocompromised. The skin should be kept clean by bathing regularly with soap, and preferably using sponge. You know, some people also, when they are bathing, they prefer to use this hard brush. As they are using this hard brush, they are brushing on their skin, and as they are doing that, they are peeling the melanin. So it is preferable you use a sponge when you are bathing. There's no need for you to scrub too much, because some people, like for instance, when they have pimples around their faces, they think that by scrubbing very hard, the pimples may go off or whatever. That is not the case. We just need to take bath and use a sponge. You just clean it gently, and then it will go off. Another thing also that we are talking about, how do we care for our skin, is our nails. And this one is very, very difficult with the ladies or with women. Most of them, they prefer to keep their nails long. And even because when some of these nails, you leave them long, it harbors a lot of bacteria and viruses. And some of these eggs of some of these mites might go there and develop and start growing there. So it's an advice so that our ladies and our sisters should try to keep their nails short. Because if you do that, you reduce a lot of viruses and bacteria that you are, like for instance, you are moving around and you are moving with viruses and this bacteria, and you are not seeing it. And some of these people, they prepare food for us, for the general family, and we eat. And sometimes some of these things are passed because they are found in their nails. And the saddest thing is, like sometimes when they have program, you see they do some nail attachment, And you look at them, they are very, very long. Though they might be beautiful, but they are long. But a lot of these bacteria and these viruses are kept there. Even in the medical field, they will always advise you to keep your nails very, very short and moderate. So that is why it is very, very important for us to keep our nails short at all time and clean. Hairs should be washed regularly with soap and shampoo. This one, it goes to some of the boys. Like for instance, those who play football. They play football, they go and play around. Sometimes, you know, you come back from the field, you don't cut your hair short, your hair is bushy, and you don't take care of them. You don't take care of your hairs. Because some of the people who leave their hairs, they take care of them. If you look at them, if you look at the hairs, you like the hair. But if you know that you cannot take your hair, take care of it, I think the best thing is that you always cut it short all the time and make sure that you are looking presentable or good looking. Clean clothes. Dirty clothes also have pathogens. Like for instance, you put on your clothes for 3-4 days. You see, the clothes becomes dirty. When you put on it, maybe 1 or 2 times, you pack it, or you go and wash it. But sometimes people will continue using their clothes, even their dirty, they still go around. So this is why some of these diseases, they are also been transferred to the skin, and we develop the skin disease. So I think this the care of the skin and prevention of some of the skin disease is very, very important. That it is not difficult to be observant, to observe yourself every day when you are leaving your home and when you are coming back. You observe yourself and see what are some of the things, the checklist. Do I care for my skin regularly? Are my nails kept short? My hair, did I maintain a low haircut or clothing materials? So I will leave you with this assignment today. We are saying that describe the function of the mammalian skin. What is the function of the mammalian skin? That's what we are going to be describing today. And we say briefly describe the 3 ways in which we can care for our skin. This is the assignment that I'm leaving for you today. So until I come your way next time, I was your teacher, Samuel Emende. Thank you.
Ikole ngambulu